is one of the great album covers just ever, bro. That idea, that just genius of it to just hide it in there like that.
That's fire. I never paid attention to. I never like. I guess I was never like in their beef, but to see that now, I'm definitely going back and I'm going to listen to all these songs tomorrow, especially trying to figure out like who sent what first, who sent what shot, and who was the response. Like I live for that. I live for. But that's what's the problem. The mainstreamization of hip hop. Like that's the problem
It's
for
the
us,
same thing
by
with the
us.
NBA, bro. It's
Yeah,
the same thing. The reason that the NBA is weaker today is because dudes don't have to battle anymore. Like, think about it. Hip hop, you had to battle. You had to come up in the street. You had to earn your respect. You had to go to the club. You had to be booed off the stage, all this. Now you're just sitting at home with your beats, doing it in front of YouTube or TikTok until you get hot. There's
yep.
no risk to get to be out on the street, standing in front of the hip hop shop in Detroit or standing in front of the avenue like Big was, and then waiting for it. Say, bro, they're losing that stuff is bigger than just music.
It's the recipe, man. It's the recipes for the culture.
So in an NBA, dudes ain't on the blacktop no more, bro. They're not going up against the old heads on the blacktop getting beat up every weekend like you used to. When you was 16 and you go to the park and you had to go up against dudes who was in their 30s.
Them dudes
Man,
don't know
I
nothing
played
about that.
against dudes. They don't know about playing against dudes who was wearing house shoes on blacktop. Come on, wearing jean shorts. Bruh. And them dudes was balling.
Yeah.
Come on, and don't beat them in their neighborhood. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
no,
Like,
no, no.
now the young players, and I firmly believe this because this is why the Euros. That's why 4 of the top 5 players on the NBA, all NBA list were Euros. Because them dudes, they got to earn everything over there. They got batteries getting thrown at them. They got to fight to get minutes in practice, on the court. You understand? Start playing as a star. You know what I'm saying? Luka wasn't no star. Jokic told you he was a fat dude that people was like, you garbage. But they want it because they had to earn it against grown men. You got all these kids out here wowing each other at these summer camps. You see it all. It's highlight. That's all it is about the highlights, about going viral. Oh, look at my move. Look at my dunk. Look what I did. But that's not basketball, though. So when you get asked to play basketball and think about the game of basketball, you've never been a teammate. You've always been a star. You've
Mm.
always been trying to get the bucket. You never had to set the screen. You never had to be the dude who went off the ball and had to go set the screen away from the screener. You didn't have to do that. But Michael Jordan did. Kobe Bryant did. LeBron James did. But these cats now, when did they do that, bro? When did I tell you about that? The Pelicans all the time. Tell me when any dude on that team outside of CJ McCollum, who had to fight his way through it his whole life, tell me when any of those other dudes from America, when did they learn? Where did they learn how to win?
I'm not about to sit here and lie to you. I'm not about to sit here and lie to you. They don't. They, man, it's so funny you say that because I wanted to start this with Pelican questions. I think I'm gonna go that route, but like I'm gonna keep it where you had it, right? We were talking international basketball. People made a people looked at Bi, they looked at his performance or his lack thereof, and they hold him as a player to that standard. I think, and I told this to Justin, I told this to Chaz. I think it's more of an American AAU basketball thing. I think that, like you just said, he's been probably the best scorer on whatever team he's been on. Never had to learn the little things. He never had to set a pick. He never had to back cut because he had the ball in his hands. So now when you put in different situations and it's uncomfortable, that's the thing. It's uncomfortable. They can't grow. These guys don't grow because they never put in situations to feel vulnerable.
They avoid them. They
Yep.
actively avoid them. And I'm not talking about when you're looking for minutes. I get that. I understand that because it's a business. You're trying to find minutes. But I'm talking about adversity. You can't have a career without adversity, man. You can't. The reason people become legendary is because of what they overcame, not how many victories they have. It's what they did after the defeats. You know what I'm saying? Why is Muhammad Ali so respected? Is it because he was undefeated?
Nah, because he was
It's
a
the
man of the.
L's.
Yep, and he was a man of the people. He was, and it was a lot of things with him too. Like he was charismatic.
But
He was
you know what I'm
rapping.
saying? Like if he
Yeah.
doesn't, the losses in his life,
Yeah,
all those losses it ain't a perfect path, and he
huge losses.
chose. He walked into the resistance. You know what I'm saying?
That was what was it? 7 years?
That
How
he,
many?
no, he didn't lose 7 of his career, but it was I think it was 3. I want to say
3. Okay, it's 3. Okay.
And to lose 3 years of your boxing career, you know, that's the prime, man. That's your career. And then to come back and still be the champion 2 more times after that.
That dude,
Okay.
is different. He's a different guy. Like that, like I absolutely everything you're saying is spot on. Like the determination. These guys, these basketball players, these people, rappers, whatever, society today, nobody has to fight for anything. Everything is given to you, or you quit, or you have a tantrum.
Because the outcome, like we have put so much on the outcome and we have neglected the process. Bro, like that whole championship culture, this ring culture bullshit. My favorite players, you know, again, football, look how many great players. Gale Sayers never went to the playoffs, bro. Not one playoff game. Gale Sayers, Dick Butkus, never. Not a single playoff game. Are they any less great?
Nope.
Barry Sanders, 1 playoff win. Calvin Johnson, 0. They still counted amongst the 2 or 3 greatest at their position, right? So this whole nonsense, and even in the NBA, bro, like, yeah, I know Dominique Wilkins ain't the top 10 of all time. I get it. But Dominique's career wasn't in vain, bro. That like the 17 years that man put in ain't in vain. Charles Barkley's career wasn't in vain because he didn't win the title. Because I watched that dude battle, bro. I watched him go into games knowing he did not have the better team and win them. I watched him lose series, but he put up the best numbers in them.
Listen, I have a special place in my heart for Charles Barkley. I love Charles Barkley's game. I love him as a player. I love him as a commentator. It literally took Michael Jordan to average 42 points in the finals to stop Charles Barkley. Charles was putting up 36, 35, 36 a game. He was playing out of his mind. He was abusing everybody the Bulls had on him. It took for Mike to reach another. He pushed Michael Jordan to reach another level. Not too many people could say that.
And look, Charles, you know, people always talk about we'll never see another this again. We'll never see another Shaq again. You ain't never going to see another Charles again. As much as you compare Zion to Charles,
they nothing alike.
Zion ain't pulling down 17 rebounds a game, bro. Zion is not blocking 2.5 shots a game, bro. Like Zion is a far better scorer than Charles was.
Yeah.
But he's not Charles Barkley, bro. I'm sorry, he's not Charles Barkley.
Why has Zion never averaged double-digit rebounds? Like, why is he not? Why? I don't understand that. The math does not math there.
Because there's certain guys, like when he was in college, I didn't think he was a great rebounder. When I saw Jahlil Okafor, I was like, that's not a great rebounder. There's some guys you just watched them. Zion is a great offensive rebounder because of position and quickness, but he's not a good defensive rebounder because there's 2 things that make great rebounders. Number one is they pay attention. Like you hear all the stories about Dennis Rodman watching how every shooter's ball came off the rim. So he knew Isaiah's different from Joe Dumars, different from Bill. He knew everybody's. That's the genius of great rebounders. Or you are Moses Malone, Charles Barkley, Charles Oakley types, and you just go, Ben Wallace, you just go get it. You box out and you go get it. That's not Zion's mentality. Do you view Zion that way? Because
No.
I don't view him as that guy that it's that urgent. And that's, again, all I can say is what I see. I've never seen urgency in his game.
Yeah, I mean, he's none of that. He's none of that. I just think at some point, right? Like we talk about the great teachers of the game, and I'm not bashing Coach K, but he came through your program. I feel like at some point somebody had to pull this young man aside. I know I could remember as early as Biddy basketball. Your coach would tell you, put your ass like just turn around. You know, like it's funny though. Nobody in basketball, nobody boxes out. There's nobody. I haven't seen a player box out in men's basketball. Man, it's been probably like 5-6 years. It's crazy that
It's
like
bad. They don't work on it. They don't work on it.
Nope.
They don't work on it. And they don't work on post entry passes. They don't work on these things.
Oh,
things that you don't work on, you're not going to get better at. If everything is shooting, if that's everything, if that's all we're concerned with is shooting, we're not playing basketball. We're having a skills competition. And I didn't sign up to watch a skills competition. I came to watch basketball.
Talking about shooting, Trey Murphy, he injures his MCL. He's officially a Pelican. Please get better soon, Trey. Trey, in the words of Chaz, is this a season derailing loss? Who or what can the Pelicans do to pick up his slack? Is there anybody on the bench on the team who can step up and fill that 38%?
No, not the shooting. No,
yeah.
There's no volume shooting that you have to replace that. The best as you can hope is that CJ gets back to form, and that BI takes a couple more threes a game. I don't think history and the numbers don't indicate that Jose is going to be much better of a shooter. He should not be a volume shooter. Your only other options are your rookie and Jordan Hawkins, who had a horrible shooting summer, and I think is not going to find the floor because of his defensive problems and Willie's in just lack of interest in playing rookies. Herb showed some decent shooting, but again, you don't want Herb being a volume 3-point shooter. So I think the Pelicans, the adjustment, if I'm the Pelicans, is you've got to play better defense and get more tempo. Like you need to create more transition opportunities. And then in the half court, you better utilize your big man. Like, offensively, I don't see how you can avoid that if you don't have Trey available to you. Because otherwise, if you get caught up with the wrong – that's the Pelicans' biggest problem has always been it's not the number of shooters. It's the wrong people taking so many threes. It's nights when Jose takes 7 threes. That should never happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How many games did we have up until the last month of the season where Trey was taking less than 6 shots in a game? So it was the wrong people taking shots. That's always been the Pelicans' problem, no matter who's in the lineup. So if the right people are taking shots, they don't have to become a team that's shooting 40-plus threes. I think that's a bad decision for them in the first place because when they shoot themselves out of games when they shoot 40-plus threes. It's about who's taking them and where you're taking them from. And that's what they've been really bad at.
Grubb, hold on 1 second. Let me pause this really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let the hand hear this bottle. But I agree with that. I think like the shot distribution for the Pelicans, especially like the 3-point part of it, is just frustrating, along with probably the rotations, along with the use of Jonas, which I want to get to. I want to talk about Jonas too, because you look at FIBA Jonas, Michael Jordan Jonas, Valanciunas versus the NBA or how the Pelicans use him, and you would swear like the man has no skill at all. You swear he was Bismack Biyombo or something like that, like right, because of how they use him. And I don't figure out for one thing that's kind of concerning or confusing is okay, so you don't want to use him properly. You make him the scapegoat for a lot of the wrongs on the team. The fans tell me he's a bad defender, and I'm not saying he's a great defender, but I'm watching guards die on screens. I'm watching people not stick with their man. I'm watching nobody when Jonas does help, especially if we're playing drop. There's literally nobody taking the back side. There's nobody helping the helper. So if I'm Jonas, why would I continue to step up? and do these things, I'm getting beat up on the other end. I'm not getting the ball. Like you said, nobody can make a post-entry pass. But the most baffling part of it all for me is you didn't move him. You didn't trade him. You didn't. I don't know what you
But
think about it.
this is par for the course for Griff, right? How many times we had a player going into the last year of the contract that you knew was not a fit for whatever reason with this organization? Same with Lonzo. You knew going into Lonzo's last year they had no plans on re-signing him. We all knew it.
Yep.
So why didn't they trade him?
Yep.
Instead, you end up with Devontae Graham. That's what happens. So you're doing the same thing now with Jonas, because the whole league knows you don't think he's your center. The whole league knows this because you didn't play him in the fourth quarters. You sat him on the bench when you could have used him. Again, go back to the Oklahoma City game where he takes one shot in the fourth quarter. One shot in the second half, excuse me. One shot in the second half. Okay? When the lead slipped away in that third quarter, that wasn't him that was allowing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to drive to the bucket untouched. It wasn't him who was allowing Josh Giddey to get to the rim untouched. Like you said, it's the guards who weren't doing their jobs. But you know what his limitations are. You know he's a 25-minute-a-game center. And yet, every big that you put around him is unreliable defensively or is hurt. You have 3 bigs on this team, right? 3. Cody Zeller, Jonas, and Larry Nance. That's it. EJ Liddell, we kind of calling him a big, even though he's 6'6" and a rookie, and I don't think he's going to get a whole bunch of playing time because I think they're trying to groom him to be Larry's eventual replacement. That's my thought. But the 3 bigs that you're going to likely see most are those 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time Larry played 50 games in a season?
Man.
When's the last time Cody Zeller played 50 games in a season? Jonas is the only one. Jonas is the only big that you have on this team who has played at least 60 games more than once in the last 5 years.
I can't understand for the life of me you see Jonas, they see Jonas in practice every day. They see how hard he works. They see he don't mess around. He don't miss games. I just don't understand the disrespect to me from the coaching staff. And if you did want to move him, y'all are the ones who lowered his value. Y'all did that by the usage of him because you made it seem like, oh, this guy can't play. He can't do any of these things. Then I see him in FIBA playing against the defensive player of the year, abusing him. Make this make sense to me. I don't understand.
Look, you know that offensively there aren't many matchups for him in a post. You know that. And to me, his only value, like if you're going to maximize value, you have to give him touches offensively. This is a guy who's an efficient scorer. And even he shot a better 3-point percentage last year than Miles Turner did by a significant margin and only made slightly fewer threes on the year and played in many more games than, again, people who clamor for Miles Turner. How many times has Miles Turner played 60 games in a season? Go look at that. Okay? So you've been on a team full of injured people. You want to get rid of the most steady performer that you have at any position as far as appearances go and production. You know what you're going to get. You can pencil him in for 15 and 12 every night. Every night you can pencil him in for that if you allow that to happen because he's going to get to the line. He can make the occasional 3 and he can score in the low post. So you got 15 and 12, but you in 25 minutes, mind you, not 45 minutes.
That's all he
in
needs.
25 minutes, he's giving you that.
Mind you, against Team USA, also he had 3 blocks in the first half. So I mean, that whole not playing defense thing, I feel like
you expose people when you don't have any, like when the perimeter defense is so bad other than Herb, and this is why I argue with people about taking Herb out the starting lineup. Who's going to defend? You take Herb Jones out the starting lineup, and the Pelicans will give up 40 points every first quarter.
You mentioned Miles Turner. Speaking of bigs who can't rebound, because I will never for the life of me understand how that man is 7'1" and averages 6 rebounds a game. Like I don't like. The math again is not computing. CJ McCollum was the third leading rebounder on the team last year. The third leading rebounder of the team at a generous 6'4". Generous, because I don't think he's 6'4". But there's a lot of chatter on the timeline. I don't take Twitter seriously, but like there's people who genuinely believe CJ is not good just because he played with an injury. He didn't have a season, I would say, that's up to his standards. But I mean, when you're playing with a torn labrum and a dislocated thumb, I don't know how you're supposed to do that, especially when 1 in 14 aren't playing. I say this all the time. CJ didn't come here to be the leading scorer on the team. He didn't come here to be the guy who like
leading scorer on the team. He wasn't supposed to be that either.
Right. But that's we keep putting faith in 1 in 14. And my thing is, I literally said this on the podcast earlier when I was talking to Justin and 5 and Chaz. I said, for me this season, I know this is BI's. You know, he did the story. Christian Clark came out with the story today that he's not going to resign this summer. It's probably, going to be next summer if he does resign or if they do resign him, right? For me, depending on how this summer goes or how this season goes, you got to make a decision on 1 in 14. We can't keep doing this song and dance because, again, BI's probably going to command $300 million. I don't know if he's worth $300 million. The market says he is.
I say no.
Yeah, I'm in the mindset of if you have to pay him $300 million, right? You paying him $300 million, and then Zion's just kick. It starts this season, right? You can't have player A missing 40 games and player B missing 35 games. Like, we can't do that. That has to end. So anyway, go back to that. You say no. Just kind of walk me through that.
Brandon Ingram as your best player, you know that team is no better than a 500 basketball team. I'm not paying $300 million for a 500 basketball team. Anybody in this league will tell you that Brandon Ingram is a good player, not a great player. And the reason is Brandon Ingram requires a certain set of conditions in order to be great. And Brandon Ingram has not shown the proclivity to have extended periods of greatness when you need them most. Like, you can talk about what he did at the end of last season, but we also need to talk about the teams that they were playing and the teams that he didn't beat, they didn't win against. You know what I mean? Like, and when he didn't finish off the games. So you can't just get the praise. And we got to talk about all the games he took off and all the games that he didn't, like, those count. Those games count. You just can't. Right. Like, the Pelicans do this all the time, get hot at the end, and everybody's like, well, that's who they are. No, you are who you are. That's why they call averages. It's the averages.
I think the problem for the Pelicans for me is I don't think they know who they are.
They have no identity.
There's no identity.
They're not a defensive team, even though they were ranked in the top 10 defensively last year. You don't think of them as a defensive team. They don't have a strategy or an identity offensively. It's give it to BI or give it to Zion, or somebody else is going to shoot it late in the clock. You don't look at them and see what the cohesion that you see with Sacramento or Denver or Golden State or the sense of purpose. They are not much different than Houston in that regard offensively. That the team that when you watch the Rockets, it was dudes being like, well, I can do this. And then they would try to do it. And if it didn't work, then they would kick it to somebody else and be like, well, you try. And then they would try. They're just a slightly more evolved, at least they have been. We'll see what James Borrega does, but they've just been a slightly more evolved version of the Rockets on offense.
I wanted to ask you about that, the Borrega hire. But before I ask you about that, I want to ask you who's been more frustrating for you during the tenure here? Would you say Zion or Brandon? Like, who do you?
Brandon.
Why so?
Frustrating because he's been here.
Mm-hmm.
He's been here for the 4 seasons. Zion has missed 2 seasons essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't fault again. The things he's not on the court, but what I've seen is the first year, Brandon came in and he hadn't been able to pick up a ball all summer, so no problem. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna fault that man for anything he did that year. And then the pandemic happened too. So all that stuff to come in, I get it. Then you get the second year, and he says, I'm going to bust everybody's ass in front of me. Remember the famous speech?
Yeah.
And we never saw that Brandon Ingram that whole year. We saw him fade in the fourth quarter. We saw him essentially quit. And I don't say that lightly with Stan Van Gundy. We saw he decided he didn't want to play for Stan, so he didn't play for Stan. We saw it. It was uninspired the rest of that season when he still had a chance to make the playoffs. So then we go to the next season, first year under Willie. While Zion was on the floor, Zion off the floor for the whole year, it took him time to figure out how to be the leader of that team as far as offense. Then you come into last season, they put you front and center on all the imagery. They have given it to you. They've told you. They've given you the money. They've told you it's your team. You can take it from here. He came out the gate slow. Then he missed a bunch of games. Mm-hmm. Then when he came back, they went through the longest losing streak they had since when Alvin was there. Or, and it just, you got to take all of it. He has not been that dude enough. There are too many nights when he looks indifferent on defense. There are too many nights when he doesn't drive to the bucket. And I know folks will say, well, he doesn't get the fouls called. You got to keep going, man. You got to keep doing it. Like, he is not just enough. There's no question his skill. There's no question his ability. When he's on, yes, he is deadly. But it can't be 2 nights out of 5, man.
It's been 93 games, I think, between them two in their partnership. Do you think that it could work?
What do you mean by work? You think they could win a championship together?
I can't.
Is that what you're thinking about work?
I can't. Yeah. Can they get to the conference finals?
They could. They could. I mean, we've seen teams put it together, and Zion is capable of being the best player in multiple series and taking a team if the right matchups are there. But I don't see this as a championship team. No, because they don't have the things that championship teams have.
Right. I mean,
the concrete list. I mean, we could do a hard and fast list. They don't have any of the things that a championship team has.
If let's just say, the summer School was drafted. School, there was a big deal about, us taking a swing at School. You, from what it sounds like, you would have made the trade for Brandon to School. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let me not even say that. Were you interested in School? Like, did you want to take him on?
It depended on what the price was.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because for Portland, the price was Zion. And I wouldn't have traded. You don't go big for small like that. No. But I felt like if it was BI for Scoot, yeah, because you got Trey. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I could replace that, and you still have the best player in the deal. You know what I'm saying? You still have Zion, who at his peak is still one of the few players, like I said, who can win multiple series for you. You already know that. And I know I've reached the peak. BI's not going to get much better, right? At this stage, his career is going to get much better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we've seen the full array of skills that he has.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to bet on something, Zion being younger, Brandon getting closer to 30, yeah, I bet on the point guard that I think could come in and be dynamic and solve that problem that I've had. I can move CJ then to the bench, right? So I can play. Then I could have played Scoot at point, Herb at the 2, Trey at the 3, Zion at the 4, Jonas at the 5. I feel a lot more comfortable with that with CJ playing my 6th man.
Zion he got a unique skill set. I don't even really know how to describe his game. Is there, at what point for you do you feel like, all right, man, that's enough. I can't take the missing of 40 games a season. Like, at what point for you do you feel like I can't do this anymore?
This is it.
This is it. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
We've done it all. because you've given it every chance you could.
Yeah.
And I think you owe it to the franchise to take every swing. You know what I mean? Like, hey, bro, we like we've done it with the coaches, we've done it with the health. This is it.
This is
like this is on you now. Because quite frankly, it's everybody's ass is on the line, right? At the end of this year, first of all, if you were asking me to put dominoes in order, the first domino is Willie Green. Because Willie Green does not have an extension currently, right? Have you heard about Willie's extension? I haven't heard about Willie's extension.
Nope.
So that means he's a lame duck coach. He's a lame duck coach with an assistant who's been a head coach sitting right next to him, right? Right? So if they get off to a bad start, and Trey Murphy being gone from anywhere between 11 and 19 games makes that possible, you get off to a bad start, kick that first domino off by Willie Green, right? Because David Griffin's got to save his job at that point.
Yeah.
So the first thing to go is Willie Green. Now the second thing to go is a player. Got to move a player now. If you haven't fixed it by December, you got a new coach, but you haven't fixed it by December, and you haven't signed BI to an extension, goodbye Brandon Ingram. There's number 2. And then goodbye Jonas. There's number 3.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way this goes if the Pelicans don't get off to a good start, because everybody now knows, David Griffin knows he can't have another year with no playoffs. How can you do that? How can you go 5 years after having the number 1 pick and not make it to the playoffs? Like we can talk about, okay, they did make the playoffs once, but it's a back-end job. We all feel like, they didn't earn that. It was a back-end job.
Right.
They got lucky. They didn't belong in any other season without the play-in. They were under 500, and the team in 8, the Clippers, was over 500. They didn't belong. They got lucky.
Let me ask you this. Let's just say, for instance, Zion's it doesn't work. What type of trade package? What would you ask for? Like, I think that's my problem in this situation, because I don't know. Like, how do you gauge his value?
There ain't a player in the league that you really want right now. I think you want the future. Like, give me veteran role players on short-term contracts, so I can put those around Trey and Herb, because they are now my focal point if I'm getting rid of BI and Zion, like in the short term.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Herb could be an all-defensive player. I need one of those.
I feel like he can.
Right? We believe he already is. So if Herb is a consistent, I need one of those. I need my Tony Allen. I need my whatever. You know what I mean? I need that guy. So I'm keeping that. And Trey, you say best case scenario, he's an all-star, or maybe even an all-NBA guy, because he has that type of a potential, hopefully, coming back from his, But at the minimum, you think he's an all. We would say we think his potential is all-star potential. A guy who could put you up 24, 25 a game, give you 5, to 7 boards, and give you 5 assists. I think Trey could do that. Give you a steal and a block a night. If you got that out of Trey, would you be happy?
I'd be good. Yeah. Speaking of him, what is there a player in your head you think he has a ceiling? Like, what would be comparative to Trey's ceiling?
Like, I kind of view Trey as like a combination between young Robert Horry and because I think he could have that kind of impact defensively. And young Robert Horry, people forget how good athletically he was.
He was dunking on everything.
And people also forget that Robert Horry for the longest time was second all time in the SEC in blocks behind Shaquille O'Neal. So that's how good a defender Robert Horry was. Okay, so like when I look at Trey's body, because they have that similar long wingspan, you see Trey getting broader at the shoulders. So I think and then that bounce, it's a lot of people say Rashard Allen, but I think
Lewis,
I think Rashard Lewis, he's way more fluid. I think Trey has got more bounce and has more fluidity than that. So I think it's more of like, who do I want to say? In that 6'9", 6'10", kind of like almost like a small forward Amari. You know what I mean? Like that quick one dribble, get that lean, that arm up, boom, and just drop it on you, and then be able to and if he could put together that, like for Trey, it's just that one dribble, boom, move to the side, knock down like KD. That move that BI is yet to pick up. That's the one that I've been waiting for BI to get to. Just put it down, boom, one dribble. Because that's the one thing about Kevin Durant that I think players should pay attention to more is how little he dribbles, man. He wastes no time getting to his spots.
Listen, the best thing, and I have a cousin who he plays he's at St. Aug, coming into his junior year. Tell him this all the time. Like when we do stuff, it's 3 dribbles. It's 3 dribbles. If you can't get it in 3 dribbles, it can't be got. If you can't find this shot in 3 dribbles, that's it. Get off it. You know what I'm saying? I think that is another problem. The over dribbling of the basketball, bro. If you don't have it, you don't have it. Give it up. I think the thing that has hurt Brandon Ingram, and this is not his fault, is that comparison to that man that you mentioned.
They're nothing alike.
They nothing alike. They nothing alike. They don't even play the same way. It's literally just a body type. You know,
and it's not even that similar. Because KD is all arms and legs, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like when you see that dude, he doesn't look normal. KD doesn't look like he's built like regular people. Brandon just looked tall and skinny. You know what I'm saying? Like, but KD was like a condor. Like when you saw him take off, it was just like, oh my God, he's so long. You know what I'm saying? Like it was weird. Like watching Ralph Sampson, you know, something like that. When you're 7'4" and you're moving like a guard, jumping up, like it's not normal. Bi don't look like that. Bi just looks tall.
Where you rank KD all time?
Scorers real high, players not that high, not as high. Like I think he's top 20. You know what I mean? But players, he ain't a better basketball player than Larry Bird. You ain't gonna tell me that. You ain't gonna tell me that. He's not a better basketball player.
Okay.
Like he is a more skilled scorer than most people will ever be. Yes. But you talk about basketball player. Like to me, that's where the conversation always goes wrong. When people take your skill package like it's 2K and make that that's your basketball player got nothing to do with skills, bro. You know what I'm saying? If you really want to be real,
I agree.
Basketball player got nothing to do with skills.
I agree. Because if that's the case, like I tell people all the time, Melo and KD are probably the two. They just seem to get. Melo could score in so many different ways.
He make it look so easy. Bro.
Easy. That's exactly what I was about to say. He could just do it he could make it look so easy that, like, if you only focus on that part of his game, I don't know where you rank Melo. Melo, you know, like he's an all-time great
scorer. I love Melo. Like anybody know, you know, because I was a Knicks fan for so long, and Melo, reminded me so much of Bernard King. Literally, I do believe, and Tyson Chandler was on.
I just listened to that,
and I do believe that year that the Knicks lost in the second round because J.R. Smith and Jason Kidd couldn't hit a 3-pointer to save their asses that whole series. They were 3-0 against the Miami Heat that year, and the games weren't particularly close. Like they had the Heat's number, and Melo was so good that I feel like if they had gotten to play the Heat, they would have beat the Heat that year. That's the one time. I don't think like when I saw that team play that whole year, there was something different about them that season. But in that second round, they turned soft.
Yeah, I listened to that. I listened to that actually earlier today. I saw Tyson Chandler talking about that, and I guess I just didn't remember it like that. But going back, I looked at the numbers and I was like, damn. I mean, but again, if Melo's the engine, and you let Melo get to his, I listened to Iman Shumpert on the podcast a couple of months ago, and he was talking about how Melo got the ball, he dribbled, he was mid post, he dribbled. Took 2 dribbles to the free throw line, shot the J, he missed. But Shump was like, I'm open under the rim, pass me the ball. And Shump was like, he took it to the locker room. He was pissed. He was yelling at Melo. And he was like, Melo got up and he was like, Shump, I know you was fucking open. He was like, I saw you open. He said, but I work on that shot. I work on that shot all the time. I got to shoot the shot. And Shump was like, I thought about that, like, damn, he right. I see him doing that. Like, I see him, and that's kind of like my problem with the NBA today. Like, not to take this transition, but like, why are you shooting that shot? I know you don't work on that. You don't do that. You don't practice that shot. How do you feel about James Borrego the hire? Because not the one, but the couple gripes last year was the offense was very stagnant. I mean, obviously you know who didn't play, but even if they did play, it should be an offensive system. It should be an identity. There should be fluidity in what y'all are doing. Like it should be a familiarity. So you have Herb standing in the corner at some point. You have either Zion in the corner at some point. Do you think he will make a dent on this team offensively? Will it matter, I guess?
What I worry about now, the thing that I like the most is that his teams always did well at end of game situations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that the Pelicans have struggled with for a while, closing out close games. No matter what his teams were, they were good at end of game situations, clutch situations. So I hope that is help to Willie in that regard. But what I worry about is that it's designed to create 3-point looks. And I hope he's going to adjust for the fact that you don't have Trey now. Because you can't just be jacking up the threes because that's the system. You know what I mean? Like your system has to work for the players you have.
Right.
And it has to create the shots for the guys you have. So I hope that there are enough adjustments. I hope he's not a blind adherent to his philosophy and that he understands how there needs to be some adjustment. Because I don't want Najee shooting 7 to 8 threes a game. You know, I don't want to see that happen. If that's the consequence of this, if it means Dyson is out there shooting 4 or 5, I'm not feeling good then. But if it's creating pace and tempo and guys are moving the basketball and there are actual created shots rather than guys waiting for shots, then yes, I'll be happy. But with the Pelicans, they weren't happy when Alvin gave them all the freedom in the world and they were getting up and down and they got all the shots they wanted and weren't happy. They weren't happy when they were shooting even more threes. Understand, Stan had them shooting even more threes than they shot into Alvin. Yeah. Now the last 2 years, you can't get them to run or shoot a three, which is what I don't understand is that this team is at its best with its running, and you can't get them to move the ball quickly in half court. You cannot get them to do it.
It's so frustrating when you look at the youth on this team. When you look at the I mean, it's not a ton of athletes, but the people who are athletic, like you would think you would move the ball, which is honestly the only gripe I had with CJ last year for real was the pace. The pace is so slow, and you know you got Bi who's a half court scorer, you got CJ who's a half court scorer. we gotta get it quicker though. Like I think that you let the defense just set up and you let them, like when teams are going boxes and elbows on Brandon, like you let them set up, you walk them into it. Do you think there is a path, or what's the expectations for Kyra this year? Or are there any expectations?
I think that Kyra is your best alternative right now to create offense on the bench. Mm-hmm. Out of every player you look at on this team, yeah, Kyra didn't get a whole bunch of minutes, but in the minutes we saw, he shot the ball well. His form looked good. He finished. He pushed the basketball. He can play defense. So I think he can be a pest in that regard. He's supposed to be everything that people like about Jose, but bigger and better. So to me, I don't see why you don't give him a chance, because you invested a first-round pick in this kid at the hardest position to transition to in the NBA. You took a kid who was a scoring point guard in college. You had to put buckets up, and now you put him in at the youngest player in the draft. The youngest player in the draft with the fewest amount of minutes, really, of anybody on the floor, because he left high school early. So he didn't even play 4 years of high school ball.
Yeah.
So then he gets hurt, and you decide when he comes back, even with your bench decimated, you're going to give him nothing? You're going to keep playing Josh Richardson, and you're going to give Kyra nothing? When you knew that you weren't investing in Josh Richardson. You knew everybody knew that Josh Richardson was not a long-term solution to anything.
Infuriating.
But you have Kyra Lewis sitting there, And in the moment you give him, he showed you he was willing to push the pace. He did everything you asked of him, and you wouldn't give him minutes. And that made no sense to me because I think when he and Dyson play together, when they finally would give them those minutes together, he made Dyson move faster because Dyson is not naturally going to push the pace like that unless it's in transition. He wants to throw it ahead. Kyra pushing the ball from the middle allows Dyson to get out on the wing, and if you throw him the ball, he's going to make the connector pass. Kyra, to me, is if I'm looking at that bench unit, who else is going to be the scorer? I'm not trusting Hawkins. I'm not trusting Nance. I'm not trusting Najee. I'm not trusting Jose. So who on the bench can you trust to score? You got to give Kyra that opportunity.
I'm a Kyra believer. Like, honestly, like, I'm a believer. He has all the skills that are translated to the NBA. He 6'1", 6'2".
He's longer than that. He's 6'3". He's
6'3".
He's a legit 6'3" with the length.
The
arm length was like 6'6".
He's probably the fastest player on any court he stands on. He's sneaky athletic. You know what I'm saying? I think for Kyra, and again, like you said, he was the youngest player at the draft at the time. I think for him, the transition was, I don't think he understood what his superpower was. Like, I saw him over dribbling a lot of times trying to get to his spots, and he doesn't have to do that. He just literally just needs to take a step.
Just go.
He just needs to go. He came back from the ACL, and he looked the same or even quicker than me. And that was one of the things that, like, kind of jumped out at me. You talked about Dyson. You spoke about him on the wing. I think that's his natural position. I don't see him as a guy who can handle the ball at all. He doesn't look comfortable dribbling to me. I don't see him as a guard. Well, I don't see him as a facilitating guard. I see him as a guy who's a connector. I think that would be the best bet for him. I do think there's a path for him. He probably could shoot a modest percentage from three. Like you said, though, I don't want him shooting a lot of shots. What I want from him is, I want to see more aggression. I want him to just, take a look at the rim. I know he wants to make the pass, but if people don't respect your scoring, they're not going to let you make that pass because they just go collapse on you. What do you see for Dyson?
I'd like to see him develop a Sean Livingston type offensive game where he's playing from the high post down as a guard, when it's in the half court set, and in transition, he's out on the wing for the occasional catch and shoot three. And like you said, to move the basketball, because defensively he can guard three positions effectively and he can run the floor and he has good vision. And I think and we saw in the summer, the 3-point shot wasn't there, but he was able to score from the mid post. He showed the willingness to finish at the rim with some athleticism. We know he's got some hops if he wants to use them. And I think he was a bit more aggressive. And I think that's what you should. He can body little guards. If he's going to play the 2 spot, then body those guards and make them guard you down there, and then use his height to pass off of. Because if he's going to be one of the few people. If you throw him the ball in the post, he can make the pass. There's not a lot of guys on the Pelicans would you trust to make that pass out of the post. He could make that pass.
Not the guys I trust on the Pelicans to make a pass in the post either. How do you feel about and this guy switched teams, but because I want to transition into this, but do you feel like LeBron will make Jackson Hayes a rotational player? Do you think that's in his wheelhouse?
No, because
is Brown that great?
Jackson Hayes is not a basketball player. Jackson Hayes is a guy who wants to be famous. If you didn't want to work, if you didn't want to work in 4 years for an organization that was bending over backwards to give you opportunities that you didn't earn, they kept giving them to you, letting you start games, not just give you big minutes. They gave him starter minutes. And he couldn't hold up his end of the bargain. He refused to understand the lack of self-awareness of being like, dude, if you just learned how to pick and roll and finish above the rim, you could be making DeAndre Jordan kind of money. But he refused. He wanted to every summer be like, I got to go work on my three-pointer. I need you to work on a three-pointer. Don't need you to work on your ball handling. That's not what they needed from you, the skill set that they needed from you. So you go to LA, I don't see if you have that delusion, it don't change. That stuff don't change because you're in a different place. What I think he's gonna probably get worse is that he's gonna be over there and he's gonna be like, I'm famous now. I'm a Laker now, And it's not going to make him a better worker because there's a lot of guys the Lakers couldn't save, right, over the years. There's a lot of guys the Lakers couldn't save that they thought, oh, we bring them over here, they're going to do the right thing. Jackson Hayes is Jackson Hayes. He has never shown you the inclination that he wants to work hard, that he wants to think the game, and that he wants to compete at a high level. He's still bitching at the refs, and you got no rep. You have no standing in the league, and he was bitching at the refs in year 4. So what makes you think he's going to grow up, bro?
I wholeheartedly agree. It's so funny that him and Christian Wood are on the same team to me. Like, that's going
to be two dudes just jealous of each other constantly.
God bless those people, man.
And AD, bro, that's the softest feelings in a. Come on, bro. It's like nothing but soft feeling dudes who, and I'm not saying it's about alpha male stuff, but like we know that these are all guys who take everything real personal. Christian Wood took his whole career, he got a chip on his shoulder. Anthony Davis, we saw him pouting all. Come on, man.
He got a chip on his shoulder too. He on a bag of chips that. Never mind. I'm bringing this up because you brought this to my attention earlier. Appreciate you because I did not see this. Had a crazy day, but LeBron, his wife, and 2 associates named in the federal PED investigation, performance enhancing drugs for PEDs. Crazy, man. How you feel about that?
I'm not shocked. Has anybody's chin, like I'm just saying circumstantial evidence. That beard and that chin, that kept getting bigger and bigger. And then the mid-season trips to Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you don't hang out with Tony Bosch, the dude who was at the center of the Major League Baseball steroid scandal. You don't hang out with Tony Bosch for shits and giggles, bro. Like everybody, we live in a world where, particularly professional athletes, and no one more than LeBron James invests more in their body, right?
That's
all
true.
The things LeBron has done to save his body, supposedly, over the years. Remember, people came down on Kobe talking about when Kobe went to Germany and got the blood stuff in his knees, and people talk about it was more than for years, people have brought up potential of LeBron being on PEDs. And then you think about the body breaking down and the ways that it has, and you think about, again, that physique being that jaw, bro. Look at him as a rookie and look at his face today. And then I'll tell you, go look at Barry Bonds pre-juice and then on the juice when his head got large, and now look at him now and his head's back to normal. If we see LeBron James' head back to normal when he's going up there for the Hall of Fame speech, you tell me what you think.
So let me ask you this. Do you think the PEDs, this is year what? He about to be in year 21?
Mm-hmm.
Around
Robert Parrish.
What year around what year or what season do you think it's possible he may have like dabbled in?
I think it started while he was in Miami because that was the spot. That's the spot. So I think it happened while he was in Miami. I mean, like I would imagine, because that's where you had the access, and that's when people get to you. You know what I'm saying? People don't go out their way to find you in these kind of things. They wait till you're in the right spot, or you come to them, because they don't do this business loud.
Yeah, and I was reading the article. The article said is that Brian never met or had any dealings, but his business manager.
And you know what I'm saying? Like, but Brian is not going to be the one to put his hand. He's not stupid. We've never said LeBron James is stupid.
Yeah, he ain't making no hand-to-hands.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we've all seen Goodfellas.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The man didn't even own phones, right? He said he don't even take phone calls because he didn't want the business to be like that. You tell it to him, he come tell it to me, I'll tell it to him, he tell it to you. That's how I go. You don't ever get caught on the phone. You seen The Wire? But you do it on the phone. Don't talk about business in the car. That's WeBay's rule number 1, right? Don't talk about business in the car.
He definitely shut D'Angelo down when he was trying to figure out what. No, we don't talk about. Goodfellas is probably one of my top 5 movies of all time. The Wire is The Wire is The Wire. I mean, I don't really ain't nothing
Goodfellas
else
is
you can say.
the mob movie. Anybody who says The Godfather is better than Goodfellas is crazy.
So for me, it's probably Goodfellas and Casino.
My brother is heavy on Casino. My brother is heavy on Casino.
Love
I think that's
Casino.
his favorite. My least is I hate Scarface.
It's trash.
It is not a good movie at all.
Scarface is trash. I'm willing to die on that hill.
I would take King of New York over Scarface any day of the week. Any day of the week.
Man, it's so many good mob movies, like gangster films. Scarface is not one of them.
Scarface is a cartoon. Scarface is a cartoon. It's not a gangster movie. It's a cartoon.
A Bronx Tale.
Oh, come on. That's dope. Yeah.
City of God. I mean, Carlito's Way.
I'll even take what was the one that they did with the first one they did with Bumpy Johnson with Lawrence Fishburne. I'll even take that one over Scarface.
Oh man, is it Kings of New York?
Mm-mm.
It's something in New York though, right?
I'm trying to remember. No, it's just one word. It's just a one-word title, and I can't remember the name of it. But it had that dope song on there too on the soundtrack.
I mean, even New Jack City.
Yeah, New Jack City's better than Scarface, and New Jack City's corny too. Like, I'm sorry, like there are really corny parts to New Jack City.
Yeah,
we gotta be real about it.
Yeah,
there's some after-school special type shit in some of it, but it's better than Scarface. And Nino Brown is one of the greatest movie villains of all time.
Oh, Nino Brown, he was incredible. Wesley's acting career like definitely Pulp Fiction. His acting career is definitely slept on. Like he had some stellar roles. White Men Can't Jump, New Jack City, Passenger 57.
When he plays Shadow in No More Better Blues, like Shadow is a ridiculously complex character. Like he steals scenes from Denzel Washington in Mo Better Blues. That's hard to do, bro.
Blade. I mean, a man single-handedly saved Marvel. He single-handedly saved that whole franchise with the Blade trilogies, which I'm sad
Wildcats.
to see.
You can't talk about West without Wildcats, bro. I love Wildcats.
What is the movie that just came out on Netflix? Not just came out. Dolomite.
He's great in that too. Dolomite is my name.
Smoke Dolomite. All right, last question before we got here. Well, two questions. Pell's record predictions for this upcoming season.
44-38. 44-38.
Okay. 44-38. All right. What are you working on? What's next for you? Where people can find you? And do you have any advice for upcoming journalists?
Well, you can catch me 4 days a week on WBOK, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 4 to 7 on the Sports Report. You can catch me on the Bird Rights. You can catch me on the Bird Calls. You can catch me getting ready to do Tulane basketball. You can also catch me doing St. Aug home football games, doing play-by-play for that. And once a week on MLBBro.com on Mondays with my column there, and on Fridays on the MLB Bro podcast as well. That's all stuff you catch me at.
This man is working. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then I do graphics in the meantime as well too. And and I produce a couple of podcasts. But the advice that I would give anybody is do everything that you can, because in this business, the only way to make yourself valuable is to do everything, is to be able to write, to be able to edit, to be able to be on camera, to be able to voice over your stuff, to be able to identify things. Like you have to be skilled. This is not just about your love for something. This is a career. If you want to do this, you have to get reps, and you have to know that some of them are going to suck. And you also cannot do this for other people. If you do things, once you start changing to say, I'm going to do this to get clicks, or I'm going to do this to maximize what you do to get clicks. Form your lane, form your opinion. And if you really want to make your mark, tell the truth. Like I'm telling you, tell the truth, because it's harder that way. It's not fun and it doesn't make you popular. But when you tell the truth or you ask the right questions to find out the truth, that's what this job is for. That's what this is about. It's not about scores at all. It's not about scores at all. These are human beings playing these games. It's about politics. It's about money. It's about economics. It's about race. It's about gender. It's about class. The score is the smallest part of it. And if you're going to do this well, then you need to know that. And it's just like anything else. Like if we're talking music, the greatest producers love every genre of music. They got favorites across the board because they are listening for the sounds. It's not about who's singing it. It's not about if you're a writer and you don't have the favorite writers because you ain't reading, you ain't a writer. If you're a journalist and you don't read other journalists and then you're not a journalist. If you don't know who those people are that created what you do, then you're not that. You're just pretending. And that's all I say is like, don't pretend this. Because if you do it for real, it's hard, but it's worth it. If you pretend, it'll never be worth it. It'll never give you what you're looking for.
That's jewelry. That's the shit that you can't necessarily put on, but it stays with you, stays on your brain. Like that's a gem. And the other thing is, like, as far as pretending, ain't no such thing as halfway crooks.
Nope.
Nothing. Before we get out of here, a word from the sponsor.
Can you believe we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Crazy, right? Well, good thing that's over. NFL's here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. Download now and use code BOOT to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code BOOT, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours.
That was Justin Germain, the bill collector Napoli, with his radio voice on the DraftKings ad. Shout out to him. Shout out to DraftKings. It's me, Lito. That's Gold Chain Grubb. We out of here, man. Peace.
Support local media.